everyone, and welcome to another week with Dala Creative TV. I am so excited because today we are going to work with Dala's oil paints. I can't remember when was the last time that I actually painted with just oils. But I am excited because we are going to use the conventional fine art materials in a very unusual and unconventional way to create this beautiful cosmos flower. It's an intuitive painting that we will do in this lesson using some of my mixed media methods. We are going to work with stencil, with bubble wrap, going to do some of my favorite texture techniques and to create this painting. So I hope you're going to enjoy this lesson, and like I said, it'll be the first time in a long time that I also painted with oils. So I am going to learn with you today. So let's get creating and have fun. Bye! For today's lesson, I will be using the following Dala products. The Dala linseed oil is used to extend the drying time of the oil paint. The white spirits will be used to clean the brushes and the plastic palette knives I'm going to work with. And of course, one of my favorites, the acrylic texture paste. I'm going to use that with the oil today. I'm going to use a variety of my favorite colors to create a monotone painting. Although you get metal palette knives, I will be using the set of plastic palette knives today. And of course, I will mix my paint on the tear-off palette paper. I will also paint on the 16 by 16 inch stretch canvas. In addition to the Dala products, I will also use a stencil and my favorite, bubble wrap. I start off by mixing some texture paste with the Zink white oil paint. I use the palette knife to cover the whole background with this mixture, approximately 2 millimeters in depth. Just look at the beautiful texture we've created. And I don't mind it being uneven. That's exactly how I intended it to be. I've put some titanium white and Paynes grey oil paint on my palette. I'm now going to mix it to get a light bluish color that I am going to use with the stencil. I am going to put my stencil on my wet oil paint, and I'm going to dab this bluish grayish color over the stencil to create some words. And I know that the paint underneath is still wet. The whole purpose of doing it is so that when I pick it up, the stencil would have created even more texture on my background. the stencil lifts some of the white texture paste up, creating a rough background. With the palette knife, I am smudging some of the words to form part of an interesting background. I have printed 3 pictures of a white cosmos flower that we will be using for inspiration in our painting today. With the black pencil, I am just going to draw a loose freehand flower and not overthink it and not even trying to create something perfect. I am just going to enjoy this whole process. Okay, so let's get started with the flower. So I'm just going to add a little bit of Paynes grey, and I'm also going to put some Prusian blue onto my tear off palette, and then I might use the cobalt blue, not sure, but I am going to put a little bit on the palette paper just in case. I'm using a generous amount of silver, also some of the titanium white, and then of course I am also going to put some of the texture paste onto the palette paper. With the Paynes grey, I am creating a shadow on the left side of the flower on the background. Now I'm just randomly putting this on. I'm not overthinking it. I'm enjoying the whole process, and as I go along, some of this paint blends with the already white texture paste and oil paint mixture, making it lighter and lighter as I blend it. With the tip of the palette knife, I'm picking up a tiny little bit of the Prussian blue, and I'm blending it with the white as I go along to just add a little bit of blue onto the background. I'm adding the paint almost like you would if you put icing on a cake. With a blending brush, I am adding some of the white spirits onto the oil paint. Now you're probably thinking, why on earth am I doing this? This is just in my nature. It's who I am. I like to experiment and I love to create texture on my backgrounds. So what I'm doing is I am thinning the paint out, and I'm using this blending brush and I'm dabbing it over the wet paint, and it's creating a very rough texture. Just look at that. For me, this is absolutely perfect. With the palette knife, I am now going to put some of the Prussian blue in lines on the edges of the petals, and I'm just going to enjoy the process. I'm not even going to worry if it's not perfect or straight. At the moment, I am just adding some dark paint to the petals. Starting with a clean palette, I am going to put some of the zinc white onto the palette knife, and I'm just going to put it onto the petals. I'm using the same motion that I did with the background as if I am putting icing on a cake, making sure that I'm putting a generous amount of oil paint onto the petals, because I want to create textures into that paint a little bit later on. So I'm also not overthinking this. I'm really not concerned about perfection. This is all about intuition. It's about enjoying it. It's about following your heart, working with the beautiful mediums, and just having fun. You will now see that I'm blending a little bit of this white with the Prussian blue to create different shades of gray, blue and white onto the petals. some of the Paynes grey to create a center for the flower. I am just adding some of the paint and I'm blending it a little bit, and then I'm dabbing it with the palette knife to create a rough texture for the center of this flower. Changing to a sharp point palette knife, I am now going to add titanium white oil paint on top of the wet petals. I'm working very careful so that I don't blend the paint with the background. If I pick up some of the darker colors, then I just smear it off before I add more titanium white to my palette knife. I'm going to turn the canvas around to make it easier for me to work. I'm going to continue with this process until all my petals are white. As soon as I've covered a petal with the white oil paint, I take the tip of the palette knife and I am drawing some lines into the thick oil paint on the petals. I am going to continue this process until I've done all the petals of this flower. not to waste any paint, I use all this paint that I scraped off my palette knife that was too dark when I did the white petals, and I'm just using it and adding it to the background to create more interesting layers and more texture. Using the sharp-tipped palette knife, I'm now going to add some Paynes grey to the stem of our white cosmos flower. Starting at the top with the paint on the tip of the palette knife, I am just dragging and drawing a line and dragging the paint down to the bottom of the canvas. I am now just going to dab a little bit more of the Paynes grey onto the center While I was painting the white petals, I smudged it a bit. I'm also adding a little bit of the Prusian blue and still dabbing it so that I can create a rough texture in the center of the flower. Alternating between the Prusian blue and the Paynes gray, I am just touching up the edges around the petals, creating a little bit more shadow between the petals on the background, and I'm just having a lot of fun. I'm going to add some of the silver oil paint to the palette, and I'm going to use this sharp point palette knife, the small one, and I'm going to dab some of the silver into the center of my cosmos flower, being very careful because I don't want to cover the whole center. I just want to add some highlights with the silver paint. are going to have some fun with bubble wrap. And we are not going to pop the bubbles. We are going to add the oil paint to it, and we're going to use it like a stamp and print beautiful patterns onto the background of our oil painting. I am going to take some of the titanium white and the Paynes gray, and I'm just going to mix it into a blue grayish color, just adding some of the Prusian blue and just blending it, because I want to get a tone just a little bit darker than the colors on my background. So I'm continuing to blend until I am satisfied with the tone of the color that I am mixing. I'm now going to put some of the paint onto the palette knife, and I'm just going to cover the bubble side of the bubble wrap, and I'm just going to press it down onto the background randomly and just create beautiful patterns onto the background of this cosmos painting. I'm just putting some on the opposite corner for some balance, and I am also going to just stamp lightly or press lightly onto this left corner to create a background that forms a unity. I am going to try something different to add my signature, and I'm just adding some Paynes gray to the left corner at the bottom where I want to put my name, and I am going to cover it with a layer of titanium white, pressing down very gently, making sure that I don't blend the two colors, and if I pick up some of the blue, then I just wipe it off before I add more white to this corner. And using a sharp object, I'm just going to write my name into the white oil paint, revealing the dark blue below my name. Okay, so let me just lift it up so that you can see my name in the white paint in the left corner. I'm very happy with it. I am just checking everything to make sure that I'm happy. And I think that I just need to add a little bit of the white to the center of the flower for the highlights, and making sure that everything is covered. I'm just putting a little bit of white in the center for the highlight of this painting. And I think that I am all done, and I'm absolutely in love with what I've created with the oil. And I hope that you enjoyed this lesson with me, and I hope that you enjoyed using conventional artist materials in an unconventional way, and I hope that you will experiment in future. Darla's paint products is very versatile. I love experimenting. I love playing with it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but you will never know until you try. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I see you next week.